Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on Go Big or Go Home. I am Old Man Troy, joined by the spectacular youngster, Kevin Cunningham, a.k.a. Kid Cunny on Twitter. What's shaking today, my friend?
Same old. Nothing crazy. I did my little NFL talk for 10, 15 minutes with the good old Canadian radio station every Monday morning, recapping the NFL. So that's always fun. If you like the NFL, by the way, if you're not just a solely Big Ten fan and you actually like, the NFL and stuff like that, check us out on Twitter at youngsteroldman. That's where Troy posts all of our shows once they are completed, and he gives out live links on the weekends where we actually talk about the NFL for an hour straight each week. So hats off to Troy for doing that. But again, at youngsteroldman on Twitter, if you want to listen to any of the shows we do, not just Big Ten related, but NFL too. And speaking of, not just college football and stuff like that, the college basketball season, and I don't have the official start date, I guess, for the Big Ten teams, but I know Duke, I heard a couple days ago because I'm a Duke fan, Duke starts in like 8 days, something like that. So I know basketball is right around the corner. And so we're going to have to
You're reading my mind, youngster. That's why I like doing the show with you, because I was going to throw in there pretty soon we're going to have to add some basketball to our show, which is going to extend the show like it did last year during the fall, because we got to get our basketball fix in. That's how we started this Go Big deal anyway. We started in basketball. It's going to be our third season doing basketball, youngster.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I love it.
3 years. Holy camole. But, yeah, it's great. I mean, people keep listening. We keep talking. I guess that's how it works, right?
Absolutely. As long as you guys listen and care what we have to say for whatever reason, then we're going to keep talking. So follow us and let us know how fantastic or how atrocious we are. But on a serious note, unless you've got anything else, Troy, about your life or any, crazy shenanigans happening, I will get into the AP Top 25, which very soon will not matter anymore.
Yeah, it's not going to matter much. No, I did. I had a life-changing event. I got my hair cut. Got all the gray cut out from this weekend.
You had gray hair, Troy?
Yeah, I'm an old man.
Okay.
Yeah, I got all the gray cut out. It started on Saturday, the gray, and it started on Saturday, and you know what I'm talking about. And then it kept going on Sunday. More gray hair popping out. So I'm like, I got to get this crap cut out. Cut it out. One on the side and blend it in. It is short, and all the gray hair is gone. I look 10 years younger. It's awesome.
There you go.
I always get
so you're
like
what?
Anyway. It's always cut short. The thing is, I just let it grow, and that's when I know how to get it cut, when I start seeing the gray hair. It's great. I don't have to worry about it. Like, there's gray hair, so time to go get it cut. But let's move on. People don't want to hear about my gray hair. Let's move into the top 25.
So the AP Top 25 is, the latest AP Top 25 is out. And as it is every week, we go through it. But on Tuesday, and when you're listening to the show, pretty sure, 99% sure, the actual college football playoff rankings will be out. The first installment of those comes out on October 30th. Today is October 29th as we're recording this. They come out each week on Tuesday. So the next set of rankings will be November 6th on a Tuesday, then the 13th, 20th, 27th, and so on. And I think the final college football playoff rankings are December 2nd, something like that. But anyway, this is the last, AP poll that people will actually even, look at. Because realistically, I mean, all season long, we go through the AP Top 25 each week, but we don't really, I mean, in the end, it doesn't even matter.
I think we're going to have to start recording the show on Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, I was thinking about that, Troy. I was thinking about that. Maybe we do like a little, 10-minute, 15-minute segment each week of like, hey, here's the actual rankings, and what actually happened. But, yeah, that was my thought.
All right, carry on.
Number one in the AP Top 25 for Week 10, which, again, whatever. But Alabama got literally every single vote for first place. I don't know if this has happened typically, but it's the first time I'm noticing that they have gotten every single vote for first place. I would assume that they've been getting it for a while now. But in any case, Clemson's 2, Notre Dame 3, LSU 4. Michigan is the top Big Ten team at 5. And just, I guess, the parallel from the AP to the college football playoff ranking, they're going to be similar. You know, it's not as though the college football playoff committee is going to say Michigan's the 13th best team. You know, they're going to be somewhere in the top 6 or 7, if not, 3, 4, So this is going to be general ballpark of what you're going to see. But so Michigan's 5. No one really cares about the other teams other than Big Ten. Ohio State moved up to 8 after being 11 last week. They had a bye, but a ton of top 25 teams lost. I think more top 25 teams lost than won last week, if I remember reading that statistic clearly. So very odd. But Michigan 5, Ohio State 8. Moving on down, Penn State is at 14, Iowa's at 19, and that is it for the Big Ten. Penn State's got 2 losses, Iowa's got 2 losses, 14 and 19 respectively. Ohio State's only got 1, they're number 8, and Michigan also only has 1, they're number 5. That's basically it. As far as others receiving votes, there's a few Big Ten teams in there. Northwestern's in there, Michigan State's in there, Wisconsin's in there, and that is it.
Why? Why is Wisconsin in there?
They didn't have Hornibrook this past week, Troy.
Yeah, is that it?
Yep, that was it.
I'm not getting off the tree trunk. We're still climbing the tree. We haven't even got into the games yet, and you already got me all worked up. I already told you got gray hair from Saturday, and now you mentioned that receiving votes. Who cares?
Yeah,
they don't even deserve to receive a vote. You can tell how happy I am about that game. No Heisman for Mr. Taylor either. No way, no how. Not after that performance. But I'm going to turn it back over to you like we always do. Let's recap last week.
Yeah. So to start off, it was week 9. We're already on week 10. Very, very weird. The weeks seem to fly by. But to start, we're going to start with Friday Night Football here. Minnesota hosted Indiana, and they won the game 38-31. It really wasn't that close. Through 3 quarters, Minnesota was up, 31-9. Minnesota was up 22 going into the final quarter. Minnesota controlled the game. They were at home. They got their first Big Ten win, actually. I know, Troy, you never talk about Minnesota.
I'm not talking about them today either.
No, fair enough. Minnesota, it just was able to control the game. Shannon Brooks, the running back, 22 carries, 154 yards. And the quarterback, Tanner Morgan, over 300 yards passing. It's the first time Minnesota's looked good in a Big Ten game, basically. So hats off to them for, getting there.
So I do have to say this to the fans, though, youngster, for those that might be listening for the first time. I have no ill will towards Minnesota. I have no problem with Minnesota. The reason I don't talk about Minnesota is that every time I do, something bad happens. So I made a promise to all the Gopher fans that I will stay mute. I will stay mute when it comes to Minnesota. So if you're listening for the first time and you're like, man, that guy's kind of an a-hole, no, not really. There's a reason behind me just not talking about Minnesota. Again, I have no problem with Minnesota, but it's been proven fact on this show. Youngster, you know that. Every time that I jump on the bandwagon, start talking about Minnesota, bam, something bad happens, and they just spiral downward. So I made a promise to all the Gopher fans, I will not talk about your team. That's all I'm going to say. Carry on.
Yeah.
I just wanted to let the fans know, because if they're like, man, he's kind of rude, no.
Right.
There's a reason behind me not talking about Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, we open the show. All right, here's the top 25. That doesn't matter. All right, here's the first game, Minnesota, Indiana. Troy, what do you think? Oh, I don't talk about Minnesota. All right, sounds good. Wonderful show you got going on here. In all seriousness, though, I mean, we will talk about the college football playoff rankings, and those will actually matter. Those those truly matter. And like Troy said, I mean, that's his one team that he just doesn't comment on anymore, because literally if he, like he said, if he's liking Minnesota, they will suck the next week. If he thinks Minnesota is going to get blown out, they'll pull an upset that week. I mean, it's literally just the opposite. Anyway, moving on to Saturday's games. Penn State hosted Iowa. That was probably the most marquee matchup in terms of the Big Ten, and just, high-profile teams playing each other, at least from a ranking standpoint. Penn State won the game 30-24. It was a good game overall. It was odd scoring-wise, I guess, if you were following the game, and it's like, oh, it's 2-0, and it's 5-0, and it's 7-5, and it was just it was kind of a weird game as far as that was concerned. But Nate Stanley, 18 of 49, Iowa's quarterback, 18 of 49, 200 yards, 2 picks. That's not going to get it done. They had a final drive basically to try and win the game, and Stanley played like crap. Their top running back had 91 yards in the game, so they really couldn't get that going. Iowa kind of struggled, and yet they still, almost went to Happy Valley and won, and that would have been the third time that a team would have won at Penn State this year. Quite odd, but I think that I have nothing to back this, but I would think that this is the youngest, or one of the youngest, that James Franklin has ever had in his coaching career, probably, because typically a normal team will have probably more upperclassmen playing starting than underclassmen. But when you had what Penn State had, and you recruit at the level you recruit, it's easy to say, yeah, this 5-star is going to start. Yeah, this 5-star is going to start. If this high-profile 4-star guy is going to play a lot, that's just what it is at places like Penn State now. So this team's incredibly young, and being at home, despite the advantage that the crowd can give you, the team's just inconsistent because of how young it is, but they did hold off Iowa. So, hats off to them for that. You got anything on that game, Troy?
No, like I said, I will warn people as I record this show on the way home. I'm heading into the dead zone, so the youngster has strict instructions on what to do when I break up and crack up. If I do just carry on, I'll call back in. This is a game, Kevin, that kind of actually, you talk about teams that have an identity. And Iowa hung in there, but Iowa's a team that needs to get a lead and play with a lead. And it's hard for them to come back. And like you said, Penn State, they're, I think, still trying to find a new identity. We know that they're good and they got talent, but when you look at this year's team, they're still trying to find that identity because a lot of new faces. And for Penn State, it's a big win for them for their season. Because, man, if they would have lost another game at home, that would have probably just been terrible as far as the morale for that team. I mean, expectations in Penn State are high now. They're at the point we should contend for a conference championship and contend to be near the top, in that top 10. We're a top 10 team. They haven't played like it. And so I still think they're trying to figure some things out as to what the new group, what their identity is going to be. And you have McSorley at quarterback, but it looks to me, Kevin, like a lot of weight is on that kid's shoulders, and he's just not able to carry it all. Somebody's got to take it off. And nothing against McSorley. I still think he's a good quarterback. But I think there's just a lot of weight on that guy's shoulders, and it shows. Should Penn State struggle with Iowa, I'll give props to Iowa. They're playing football, but to be honest, when you look at Penn State comparative to Iowa going to Penn State, Penn State should win that game. I mean, so the result to me was what it should have been, but Penn State very well could have lost that game at the end, but Iowa's just not a good come from behind, going to drive down at the end of the game and win a game football team. They're a team that has to play with the lead. And that's why they try to get out quick. But Iowa gave them a game. Hats off to Iowa. That's all I got.
Yeah. And just off the top of my head, I was just thinking of the starters that went to the NFL and are in the NFL and on teams right now. You lose Barkley and Gesicki and Hamilton, your top running back, wide receiver, tight end. your top linebacker in Kabinda, your top safety in Allen. That's just 5 names off the top of my head that are just easy to roll off out of my mouth. I'm sure they had more than 5 go to the NFL and are on NFL rosters now. But that's just a ton of talent to overcome, and this team is super young, and it is McSorley who ended up getting hobbled up in this game, and he had to leave, but he ended up coming back. Could tell he wasn't 100%, and he hasn't been putting up big passing numbers anyway. I mean, it seems like he puts up 200 yards passing and over 100 yards rushing every single game, because he doesn't have guys that he can trust necessarily. Not even just out of the backfield on little screens and stuff like that, but guys on the outside and a tight end, and, they're all gone. They're all gone from a year ago. So I think Penn State being 6-2 and beating a team like Iowa and, holding on to a tough, a close lead like that late, I think that does show some character. And like you said, Troy, if they lose that game, they go to 5-3 and 2-3 in the Big Ten. That would kind of speak volumes. That's how I saw it last week, is that we're going to learn a lot about what Penn State really is, not just now, but going forward out of this game, because of how tightly matched these two teams were. Because Iowa's a little bit, they're not necessarily old, but they're older than Penn State, and Penn State's been struggling. So this was just an interesting game on a lot of levels. I think Penn State's got a bright future. I don't think, I don't think this is the end of Penn State, because all those guys left a year ago and now McSorley's leaving. But anyway, there was another quick thing I had to mention, but I forgot as I was rambling. Anyway, moving on. Key little, not a key little upset, but just a little upset here. The Big Ten West is certainly interesting in terms of the standings go, and I will pull those up in a second here. But Northwestern was at home to Wisconsin, and Northwestern had, I think they had some injury issue. Wisconsin did not have Hornibrook, as we mentioned before. So that Jack Cohn kid, I believe he's a sophomore, I think.
Hornibrook got concussed.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm not sure when he got concussed, but he got concussed.
I think it came out like Friday. I remember doing the story on it. If you like Big Ten football, obviously you're listening to the show, so of course you do. Check out SaturdayTradition.com. That's where I write during the week and weekends. But yeah, that randomly came up. It's like, well, actually Hornibrook might miss this game. And it was like, a day later or 2 days later. I forgot when it came out, Thursday or Friday. But I was like, oh, that's going to hurt, even though we may bang Hornibrook basically every week. We kind of bash Hornibrook. It should be noted that there's a reason why he is the starter, So I think that while we give Hornibrook crap, he is a junior, and he has been playing. He started games as a freshman. He is not what he is not what makes Wisconsin go. I had to get my words right there. But he is the starting quarterback and has been the starting quarterback for a while. So you may not think that a lot rides on him and that Wisconsin just grounds and pounds, and, if they do that successfully, then Hornibrook can just go off play action and life is easy for him. But when you're the starter for that long, like Hornibrook has been for Wisconsin, it does impact you if he misses games or misses a game or misses a half or misses, a couple of series. Again, we kind of crap on Hornibrook basically every week, but it does mean something when you're starting quarterback for, 20 or so games in a row is out for a game and on the road and at Northwestern, a team that can run the football, control the clock. That's going to hurt you, and it did. I think that with Hornibrook, I honestly think they would have scored more than 17 points. I really do. I don't know if they would have won the game, but I think that having Hornibrook would have helped. I'll say that. In the end, my thought is that as long as Graham Mertz, this huge quarterback recruit that is committed to Wisconsin for next year as a freshman, I think he should start next year. People like this Cone kid, but I think Mertz is going to.
Why should anybody like him? Pull the stats up, Kevin. Look at his average yard per attempt.
I guess the people that, like him in practice and stuff like that and hear things, But, yeah,
practice and game is two different things. You can see him getting all worked up. His average yard per attempt, I think the highest I saw it during the game was 6.1.
Yeah, it ended at 5.1. You know,
5.1 yards per attempt.
No. He's not pushing the ball down the field.
You're not going to win any games with that.
Yeah. I mean, that's really in college football. In the NFL, anyone can throw the ball, 45 yards and put it fairly accurately if you're an NFL quarterback. You may not do it consistently, but you can do it. These guys in college, there are some teams that's like, yeah, the Hornibrook struggles to drive the ball down the field, and that's the issue with Wisconsin. Even last year at Ohio State, I'm an Ohio State football fan, and J.T. Barrett couldn't push the ball down the field consistently. That was the issue with their offense the entire year. That was the issue. And so in college, it's much different. And if you're averaging 5 yards an attempt like Jack Cohn did, it's just so much easier to defend the run. That's why you saw Jonathan Taylor, 46 yards Jonathan Taylor had. Every single game this year, he had at least 100. This game, he had 46 because Northwestern had zero interest in guarding the guys on the outside.
They didn't have to.
Yards. Right. That was
why would you?
Yeah.
So I told you I was gonna throw a wrench at you in the show. So, and I think this is something we're gonna start. You've heard me say "poo the bed" a million times.
Yeah.
And when I used to do the Red Light Sports Ramble, Evan and I actually had the Pooh Ball Award. I'm not bringing the Pooh Ball Award back. I'm actually bringing back the Pooh the Bed Team of the Week. Pooh the Bed Team of the Week in the Big Ten. It is the Badgers. I don't care if they had a backup quarterback in. Defensively, they stunk. Offensively, they stunk. They literally pooed the bed. I mean, so they're my Pooh the Bed Big Ten Team of the Week. And I think from now on, we're going to have a Pooh the Bed Team of the Week. It's the Badgers, the first inaugural Pooh the Bed team. And I'm a Badger fan.
Yeah.
It was hard to watch this thing.
Right.
And I understand, like you said, I'm probably one of the hardest critics of Mr. Hornibrook. But we got to be real. I'm always real. I'm real about my team. I'm real about every team. The guy's got a lot of deficiencies. Game manager, there you go. But the thing is, if you're going to contend for a national title in college, pros are different. NFL is different. You can win with a game manager. You can't do it in college, Kevin. You cannot win with a game manager in college. There's no way, no how. And you found out in this game. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say you can't win big. Like Wisconsin, when they go against your average team, they'll just run all over them, and you can average 5 yards an attempt. You can throw play action 15 times a game, and boom, you're going to score 38 points, and you're going to hold teams to 17, and you'll win games. But when it comes to, playing at Northwestern, playing at Ohio State, playing a Michigan, playing a Penn State, playing a Clemson or a Georgia or an Alabama in the playoff,
your quarterback has to make a play at some point against those teams. The ball's got to be in your quarterback's hands, and he's got to make a play to get people out of the box. That's the bottom line. And so the thing is, you put this kid in, and it's almost like you don't trust him. But it's been my issue with Wisconsin for the last year and a half, Kevin. They've got to have a quarterback that can make some plays.
Yep.
Play action is great, but now you find out what happens when they bottle up the run. And that's all Northwestern was going to do. And didn't I say it in the preview last week? That's how Northwestern wins. They bottle up the run. And I didn't know Hornibrook wasn't going to play, but I said they got to make Hornibrook beat them. And that's what every team's going to do. Now, they were probably licking their chops with the backup quarterback in. So if I'm Paul Chris, let the kid throw the ball. Let the kid throw the ball. So, again, this is my Pooh the Bet Award for the Big Ten. Offense stunk, defense stunk, special teams stunk, coaching stunk. Everything about Wisconsin stunk this week. That's all I got. Carry on.
Recruiting and stuff like that is always interesting to me. I'm just thinking of something here because we're talking about it, and it's like people like this Jack Cohn kid for whatever reason. I don't even particularly know. But if you've got a quarterback like D1 at Wisconsin, at Ohio State, at wherever, and he comes into the game and he can't, you don't trust him to throw the ball, 20, 25 yards down the field, let alone, 40, 45, 50 yards. It's like, well, how do these quarterbacks make it to these teams? Honestly, seriously. If you're not willing to trust their arm to throw the ball a little bit down the field, how do they make Division I, Big Ten, top-tier programs teams? Because I was at University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, a Division III school. It was a powerhouse Division III school. It was a still Division III school. And the quarterback there went to the Chicago Bears training camp for a reason. I mean, he's good, but it's like, how does a quarterback like that, who did push the ball down the field 40, 45, 50 yards, he would throw bombs, and he would throw
he also had a guy named Kumaro there.
Yeah. But even without Kumaro, there were games he didn't have Kumaro due to injury and stuff like that, and he would toss the ball around, 40-yard posts, 30-yard corner routes, and it's like, that's a quarterback. And it's like, yeah,
in
that
Division
guy will
III.
get you. Right. It's like, how, let alone Division II or FCS, or how does a quarterback, get to Wisconsin, get to Ohio State, and can't throw the ball down the field consistently? I don't understand that. It's one thing if they've got super legs and it's like, yeah, this guy can run for 100 yards on frickin' anyone. That's one thing. That's a dual threat quarterback. It is what it is. But I don't get it. if
you're not going to figure it out, youngster. You're not. You're really not. It's a question that's always come up at Wisconsin. So maybe next year, though, that all those questions will just get squashed because maybe they'll have a legitimate quarterback next year. We'll find out.
Start Graham Mertz, the true freshman. 2019, start him. Start the freshman over the senior.
Start him now. Get him out of college. Get him eligible for next week. That's what I'm thinking.
It happened at Clemson, and Kelly Bryant was the quarterback who got Clemson to the college football playoff, and then he was a senior this year, and Trevor Lawrence, the number one quarterback recruit, came in as a freshman and took his job, and Kelly Bryant transferred. I mean, it's okay to have – if the freshman's better, the freshman's better. That's what's going to be at Wisconsin next year, as long as Mertz stays committed. Anyway,
let's move on.
Yes, Michigan State hosting Purdue, 23-13. We won't take as long as we have on these first couple games. But anyway, Michigan State, Purdue, 23-13. This was also another very interesting game. I was interested to see Michigan State's defense. If there's, you were talking about your Pooh the Bet Award for Wisconsin. Michigan State's defense is what kept the game against Michigan from a score standpoint close a week ago. They only lost 21-7. They got absolutely dominated, but the defense kept them in the game. In this game against Purdue at home, Michigan State won the game 23-13. You held Purdue's offense to 13 points, which is huge. I mean, Ohio State's got an interesting defense. They gave up 49. But like Illinois gave up 46, Nebraska gave up 42, Boston College gave up 30, Missouri gave up 37. No one has held Purdue to 13. Northwestern gave up 27. No one's held Purdue to 13, and Purdue's offense is humming right now. So Michigan State's defense, hats off to their defense. And they also didn't have their quarterback in Brian Lewerke. He was out with an injury. Michigan State was down to their third-string punter in this game. They had another offensive lineman miss the game. Michigan State is just Felton Davis, the team's top wide receiver, had surgery on his Achilles. He said that went well, but he's out for the rest of the year. This team is just so injury-riddled, and yet they can still
Michigan State team MVP, the head athletic trainer.
Yeah. People are wondering, like, who are our athletic trainers and conditioners, and it's like if a quarter of our team is out for the year with an injury, something's not right. I don't know if it's just bad luck. But anyway, Lewerke was out, Michigan State's quarterback in this game, and Rocky Lombardi came in, 26 of 46, 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, was able to move the ball, would push the ball down the field a little bit. Not to say he's better than Lewerke, but he showed you he's a Division I quarterback. I mean, as crazy as that sounds, it's like, okay, you've got a legitimate backup quarterback there. Good to know. And led them to a win here. But like I said, the defense, Michigan State's defense was the story. Not seeing Purdue do much of anything offensively. They scored 1 touchdown offensively in the entire game, which that's just incredibly impressive. You don't see that a lot against really good offenses in college. Not that Purdue is, going to score 40 on anyone, but they do have a really good offense. I'll say that much. So hats off to Michigan State's defense. I was impressed with them. I'm happy to see Michigan State at 5-3, 3-2 in the Big Ten, winning a game like that with their backup quarterback because they've just got so many injuries. I've never seen a team as injury-riddled as this team. When you're down to your third-string punter and you're missing your top wide receiver and your top running back misses multiple weeks and you're without your top quarterback and you're without offensive linemen and defensive players, it's just like, how do you compete, let alone beat good teams?
You compete because you have a good coach. That's how you compete.
I thought you were supposed to
I'll stay on the D'Antonio bandwagon. The guy is an awesome college football coach.
Yep.
That's how you do it. He recruits guys that are going to be in his system. And you know what? It's not always pretty. They don't win every game, but we talked about it earlier in the season. His record against top 10 teams, and he's got a solid program. So I know we haven't heard the fire D'Antonio in a while.
Last week we did against Michigan. I saw some radio station throw it out there like, when are we going to be done with this? And it's like, are you kidding me? I don't get it.
Well, yeah, D'Antonio's a good coach. I don't have anything to add, Kevin. You hit everything right on the head. Michigan State defense just they came to play, and they did a great job against a good offense. So that's all I got.
Nebraska is on fire. They didn't just win their first game of the year last week. They have now won 2 in a row. And they beat
little winning streak for Mr. Frost.
Yeah, they beat Bethune-Cookman 45-9.
Oh yeah, wait, it wasn't a Big Ten win.
No, it wasn't. They were up 38-3 at half. They had 28 points in the first, I don't know what it was, 11 or 12 minutes of the game.
And then they should have.
Yeah. So that there's nothing to really talk about with this game. But
you're not going to break this game down, youngster.
No. The one thing I wanted to mention, though, I was talking about University of Wisconsin-Whitewater, a D3 school, and you have, like, players there that can, like, at least go to training camps and stuff like that, and they get to Division III. And it's like, yeah, we'll go to the Chicago Bears training camp, or you'll have a wide receiver that's on the Packers roster right now. And not to say that every team should have guys, pushing NFL rosters. But
yeah, unfortunately, though, I believe they put him on IR for the year, but he's still on the roster.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if with the health of the receivers and the young guys stepping up, I like Kumaro, Kevin. I think he's got the build to play in the NFL. I don't know if he's gonna make the Packer roster next year because of the emergence of Geronimo Allison and these young guys that they have. But I'm going to tell you what, anybody listening in right now to this show that's an NFL person, remember the name Jake Kumaro. He's going to be on a roster, Kevin, and he's going to play. He's got the build for it, and he runs good routes. And this guy came from a Division III school. Our school, by the way. And that's not just why I like him. The kid is a legit wide receiver in the NFL in my mind, and he played Division III.
Yeah, so it makes me question when Wisconsin throws out a quarterback that can't throw the ball 30 yards down the field, or at least they don't trust him to. Or you see games like this where Nebraska plays Bethune-Cookman, and it's just like it's not even close. And Nebraska was 1-6. And yet it's like, how is this team a football team that they're playing against? Because it's just a joke. And it's like I remember sitting there watching D3 football, and quarterbacks could throw the football. And receivers could make plays, and it was like, I don't know. Whitewater, Mount Union are different D3 programs. They're not really D3 programs. They could probably, I'm sure, compete with D2 programs. But it's weird to me how some of these things happen where guys come from small schools, and it's like Joe Flacco at Delaware State And it's like, oh, yeah, that's, you can trust that guy with your franchise for 10, 15 years. It's like, how does a team like Wisconsin not have a Joe Flacco or an Ohio State or whoever? It's just, it's weird. It's interesting to me. Anyway, moving on. The last game to recap, Maryland was at home against Illinois, and Maryland put up 63 points on Illinois. And after the game, Lovie Smith was, it's getting to the point where it's like Illinois is not making strides. Like they're just not getting better, and that's what it seemed like at Nebraska for a few weeks there. You can tell that Nebraska's offense is getting going, but at Illinois, it's like what's getting better at Illinois? It doesn't seem like anything.
So Kevin, in this game, there was a couple of things. Early, big kickoff return for a touchdown. I mean, you go down, and all of a sudden, Maryland returns the kickoff for a touchdown. That's a deflator right there. But what really stood out to me in this game, and we talked about it all the time, you can't win kicking field goals. Illinois was driving the ball a number of times, Kevin, and they had to settle for field goals.
Yeah.
If they can punch those in and score 6, this is a totally different game.
Right.
But their defense couldn't stop anybody. They couldn't stop Maryland either. But that's what stood out to me with Illinois is that, and I wouldn't even call it average offense at best on a good day, but they were driving the ball. They were hitting in Maryland territory. They were then having to settle for field goals. And that really surprises me. And not because they had to kick field goals, but because you have a former NFL head coach. How do your teams stall? I mean, you're a football guy. Figure it out. You can't be settling for field goals. That was Illinois' problem in this game. I know it's lopsided, and people saying, well, you're just a crazy old man. They would have lost anyway. I don't. Maybe they would have lost, but if they would score touchdowns there, this is a different game.
Yeah.
It's not the big blowout that you're seeing. But what was it, Kevin? Like 3 drives in a row or 3 scoring drives? They're 3 scoring drives. We're all field goals.
Yeah, in the first half, they kicked 3 field goals in the first half. They had 9 points.
If they scored 2 touchdowns there, add 14. It's a different game at halftime. So, that's what stood out to me. I know that I picked this a straight upset, and I was watching it going, man, I am just stupid. I am just stupid.
That was the thing that I forgot to mention, was that our lock of the week was Illinois plus 17.5. They lost by 30. So we're back to reality.
Well, here's the thing, though, Kevin. They lost by 30. They scored 2 touchdowns in the first half. We win.
Yeah, you're right.
We win.
You're right. Yeah.
So I'm just saying, it's just one of those things. Doesn't matter if you're playing Pee Wee, they don't kick field goals. Doesn't matter if you're playing high school. Doesn't matter if you're playing college, NFL, CFL, XFL coming up in a few years. You need to score touchdowns on your drives. You're not going to do it every time, but it just seemed like I was watching, and then Illinois gets down into Maryland territory. I'm like, oh, they're kick a field goal. Like before they even got to 4th down, I'm like, they're going to kick a field goal. I mean, it was pretty easy to tell that offense is not fluid. They've got a lot of work. They've got to figure it out. They've got to be able to finish drives. So that's all I got there. Let's move on to the upcoming games this week.
I want to say something quick here. Illinois, I think, offensively does have a couple playmakers here and there. I don't think they're Ohio State. I don't think they're Michigan. I don't think they're Purdue. But I think they've got a few interesting playmakers offensively. My main issue with Illinois is that Lovie Smith is a defensive guy. And it's like this is year 3. And you're giving up 63 points to Maryland. That's my main issue. It's one thing if you lose 31-21, even if you lose by 30, and it's 37-7. it's like, okay, you got crushed, but at least you held Maryland a few times. In this game, it was just like, no, we're just giving up 63 points.
Well, they gave up too many big plays in this game, Kevin. What would
they gave up 6 different 40-plus yard touchdowns. I wrote an article about it because it's ridiculous. Yep. They gave up 6 40-plus yard touchdowns in this game. That's insane.
Yeah, 6.
Just on those plays, that's 42 points. Just on those plays. So, defensively, they've got huge issues, and that's where Lovie Smith is supposed to be an expert and do well. But year 3,
I'm a Lovie Smith fan, Kevin, in college. I said it last year that I think Lovie Smith can do some things, but I don't know after watching this game. I don't know because I haven't seen any improvement.
Right.
You know, how long do you give the guy? And you know me, I'm not a guy that's going out here saying fire coaches.
Right.
I'm usually in their corner. You know, being a former college coach, I like giving coaches benefit of the doubt, giving them time. I've been there. I've built the program. It takes time, but you've got to see progress. And honestly, after watching this game against Maryland, you know, a team that was favored by 17.5, but I didn't think it was that Maryland team was 17 points better than Illinois. They proved me wrong. Really, even today, Kevin, even on Monday as we're recording this, I don't think Maryland's 17 points better than Illinois.
Uh-huh.
At least they shouldn't be. And where am I going to point the finger? I'm actually pointing the finger at the coach right now. I don't know if Lovie Smith should get another year because there's no progress. We talked about it before. We're like, well, who's Illinois playing? They played all these young guys last year. They're the youngest team in the Big Ten. Now they're the youngest team in the Big Ten again. What's going on? I don't think he knows what he's doing in college. There. I said it out loud on the show. I just think he's in over his head. So that's all I got. We can carry on.
Moving on to Week 10. Week 10 of the college football season. Ohio State is at home against Nebraska at noon. Both Ohio State and Michigan coming off byes, by the way, just FYI. Ohio State, again, at home against Nebraska. I think Nebraska is going to score points in this game, and I think Nebraska is going to score I think they'll score at least 31 points in this game. So Ohio State, Troy, you said what when I said that Ohio State would give up 30-something to Purdue, and Purdue scored 49. I think Nebraska is going to score points, just like Purdue did. Different offense, completely different offense, but I think Nebraska is going to score. I do. I think at
Wallapalooza.
Ohio State's favored by 20.5. That means, to me, I think Nebraska scores 31. So with that in mind, Ohio State would have to score 52 to cover the spread. It's Nebraska's defense, so Ohio State could. So I won't lock it, but I think you're getting a good deal if you're betting Nebraska and that offense and getting 20.5 points. The other team's got to score a lot because Nebraska is going to score.
Yeah, well, I crumpled up my Monopoly money. I crumpled her all up. These sucker bets to me that money's locked in the bank. Ohio State's going to win the game. I do think Nebraska's figured some things out, Kevin, but I don't know how long they're going to keep it close. They might do it in the first half, and then Ohio State will just kind of flex its muscles in the second half. We see that a lot in college football. But Nebraska might hang in there for a little bit, but I think Ohio State's going to run away with this. I don't know. Again, I'm not locking this one in, these little sucker bets like this. But could Ohio State beat Nebraska by 21? Yeah, they could. They could. Even if Nebraska scored the 31 you said, could I see Ohio State putting up 52? Yeah, I could. Nebraska's offense, or Ohio State's offense is that good. So I think Ohio State wins. I'm not locking this one, though.
Same here. It's a game that makes me a little eerie because I think Nebraska has confidence, and I think Nebraska knows their offense can move the ball on basically anyone. I do think that. But anyway, moving on. another game that will not be close. Wisconsin is at home against Rutgers. So Rutgers is playing a football game, so Rutgers is going to lose. That's just the way it goes. Wisconsin's favored by, how much do you think Wisconsin's favored by, Troy? Wisconsin at home against Rutgers.
Wisconsin at home against Rutgers, I'd say the line is probably 19.5.
30.5 points.
What?
Wisconsin blows people out all the time. Troy, what are you talking about?
30.5. And we got to let the listeners know that this is not like fake play like I knew the lines. I don't know any of the lines.
No.
And I don't look at them on purpose for the show because this is something that the youngster and I have done. Very easily I could, but I wait for the show because I like getting all discombobulated when somebody tells me Wisconsin's favored by 30 points. I don't care if it's Rutgers. Here's the problem, though.
Sometimes Troy will pick these lines right on the head, by the way. He's done that multiple times this year where he's picked it perfect.
I think I'm pretty good at picking lines. So I think somebody's a little wackadood in the head. Now, Jonathan Taylor will probably have a bounce-back game against a Rutgers porous run defense, and he'll probably run for 250 and maybe 4 scores. So could they win by 30? Honestly, I think they could. Because they'll just run, as long as they don't have to pass the ball.
Yeah, Kansas beat them by 40. So Wisconsin can beat them by 30. It's possible, for sure. But I know what you're saying.
Paul Chris going to be like, oh, it's 2nd and 8, so let's throw the ball. Oops, interception. I mean, those are the things that could happen. And when you got a line this big, 30 points, could Wisconsin get out to a big lead and then Rutgers just score some mop-up points to cover the spread? I mean, that's what I worry about when you see a 30-point line against a subpar team. Because Wisconsin is going to run the ball, and that's all they're going to do. We'll probably do this show next week, and make a note of this, youngster. I think Wisconsin will run the ball 50 times against Rutgers. And if they average, 6.5, 7 yards a carry like they could, that's over 300 yards rushing. So I think they're going to run the ball 50 times and have success doing it.
Okay.
If Hornibrook plays, if Hornibrook is cleared to play, he had best not throw the ball 20 times in this game. No way, no how. Shouldn't have to. So I'm going to say as a bad guy.
Yeah, I wrote that down as a note, as well as my Nebraska scoring 31 on Ohio State. Wisconsin wins this game. I think I'm with you, though, Troy. We're not going to lock this in because of how dangerous these huge lines can be. Moving on, Maryland at home against Michigan State. It could be an interesting game. It's at Maryland. It's an early kickoff, and it's on ESPN2, and Maryland at times can flex on its opponents, and they beat Texas earlier this year. And Texas is ranked, what is Texas ranked? Oh, Texas just lost, actually. I didn't know Texas lost. Texas was ranked number 6 in the country. They just lost to Oklahoma State 38-35. So they dropped down to 15. But like before that, the only team to beat Texas was Maryland in week 1. I mean, Maryland is as bipolar a team as you can find in the country, in my opinion. But so Maryland at home against Michigan State, it makes you want to think that Maryland can score some points. And if you score some points on Michigan State, you're going to be close to winning. What do you think the line is on this one, Troy? This is an interesting one to me.
Maryland by 3.
Michigan State's favored by 1.5.
So it's a pick'em game.
Right. Yeah. I think ultimately, that I trust. It's hard to say that I trust Michigan State. Like I said, Maryland is as bipolar as they come, in my opinion. So yes, I do trust Michigan State more. It's just hard to say that when you have no idea what guys are going to be on the field due to health. But I trust D'Antonio really more than anything in this game. So I think that's why Michigan State's barely favored on the road, is because of consistency in general in the programs themselves. And so I would pick Michigan State to win, which means I guess that I would lock it, sort of, because they're favored by 1.5. So I think they would cover the spread. But I don't know.
Not if they win 21-20.
that would happen. We would lock this game, and
we're not locking it because of that, because of what you said. Maryland, I like how you put that, bipolar Maryland team. But you're absolutely right, because, again, we talk about identities all the time. I can't figure Maryland out. They beat a Texas team, then they look like crap, and they go out and they crush Illinois. And then they should have, I know they probably should have beat Illinois, even though I thought Illinois was ripe for the picking to be able to go in there and see improvement. But the reality is Maryland is an okay football team. As you notice, I didn't say good football team. They're an okay football team.
Yeah.
So you got Michigan State, but I've seen inconsistencies with Michigan State this year also. And we've seen it. But if that defense that came out against Purdue shows up at Maryland, Michigan State might have their way with Maryland. However, there's always a however. You talked about it before, and I mentioned the MVP of Michigan State is the head athletic trainer. Michigan State is so banged up, Kevin. Who else is going to get hurt this week?
Yeah.
And that's what makes me not trust Michigan State. Yeah, it's next man up. Guys got to step up. Guys got to play. I understand all that. But at the end of the day, you're still not playing with your best 22 guys. And that, to me, puts a question mark in my head about taking a team on the road in the Big Ten. It is hard to win on the road. And I know Michigan State is a good team playing an okay team, but I have a lot of questions about Michigan State. I think they can pull out a close one. But that 1.5-point spread, I'm not joking, Kevin. Michigan State might be down 20-14 at the end of the game, and they go down and score a touchdown to win 21-20.
Yeah.
That's how close I think the game could be.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, if that Michigan State defense goes out and plays like it did last week, you could see Michigan State win by 20. Because that defense was suffocating last week, and I think Purdue's offense is better than Maryland's. But I just can't trust the defense with all the inconsistencies that I've seen in Michigan State. So I think Michigan State's going to win the game, but I'm not even locking at 1.5 points. Call me a scaredy cat if you want. But I could see it being a squeaker.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I think that 2 weeks ago, this Maryland team got shut out by Iowa, and Iowa's more known for its offense this year than its defense. So that shows you what Maryland is capable of. Like I said, they're as bipolar as a kid, really. So speaking of Iowa, Purdue is hosting Iowa this next week. Should be a pretty good game. I think that Iowa, I ultimately think these teams are pretty even, realistically. And that's exactly what Vegas thinks as well. Purdue is favored by 3 in this game. Purdue is at home against Iowa. And I honestly do think that Purdue wins the game. I think that being at home will be nice, and I think that this offense will score points on Iowa's defense. And I think Iowa will probably have to throw the ball in order to keep up with Purdue. And I ultimately think Purdue wins the game, which it's weird. It sounds weird to say, but I do expect Purdue to beat Iowa.
Here I'm with you. So we both have Purdue, and what is Purdue favored by 3? Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yep.
I think it's more than 3. I'm willing to uncrumple my Monopoly money and lock this game, and I'm going to give you my reason why. Nate Stanley had his opportunity last week against Penn State. I know Purdue's defense is not as good as Penn State, but Stanley didn't look good last week, Kevin. When he's forced to throw the ball, that's not the same Iowa team. And you hit it right on the head. Purdue's going to score points. Good offense is always going to find a way to score some points in college football. And so if Iowa's got to sit there and start throwing the ball and chucking it around the field, no, I don't think they can hang toe-to-toe with Purdue. I don't think they can match them score for score when we're talking in the second half when Purdue's up by 10. Again, Iowa's a team that needs to play with a lead. Could they get a lead on Purdue? They could, because Purdue's defense is still a work in progress. Not a great defense. But Purdue's offense, like you said, Kevin, can put points on the board. So if Iowa's kicking field goals and Purdue scoring touchdowns, kind of like what Illinois did against Maryland, I see Purdue getting out to a lead, Iowa having to throw the ball, and then Iowa's done. If Iowa would get the early lead and be able to milk the clock and pound the ball and pound the running game, keep the ball out of Stanley's hands, then they could win the game. Again, the best defense against a good offense is to keep your offense on the field. Iowa could do that if they're playing with a lead. If they're playing from behind, no way. I like Purdue in this one, youngster. I'm willing to lock it. I'm willing to lock Purdue with the 3 points.
All right. We've got one lock of the week then.
Woo-hoo!
I'll hop on
Let
that.
the fireworks go off! Woo! Here we go.
Purdue -3 at home against Iowa. We're locking the Boilermakers. So Iowa's 6-2.
Do you like that new sound effect, youngster, of the fireworks in the background when we lock it? I found it. I like it. It's
our record. I was going to say our record does not deserve fireworks this year. Last year it did. Our record was perfect last year. This year we're like 1-7 or something.
Let's just brush that under the rug.
Anyway, moving on. Illinois at home against Minnesota.
I'm not even talking about this game. Take it away.
I know.
It's all you, youngster.
I don't even know what to say about this game. Like Minnesota, I don't know what to. I trust Minnesota more. Minnesota's favored by 9.5 on the road. Vegas obviously trusts Minnesota more.
9.5 only? 9.5 only against the way Illinois just played against Maryland? Now, if you would have told me this line was 30, I probably would have said, oh, that's fair.
Illinois is bad. Rutgers is bad. Illinois is bad. Those are by far the top or bottom two teams of the conference, for sure. I trust Minnesota more. I'm not going to lock one way or another. It doesn't matter because Troy's not talking about this game. But Minnesota should win the game. I just think it'll be an interesting game to see as far as, if you're looking for top-tier talent on both sides of the ball, then go elsewhere.
You might be the only one watching that one, Kevin.
Same time window, by the way. Michigan's playing Penn State, so my eyeballs will be on Michigan, Penn State. But I think it's just interesting how this game's going to unfold, because I don't like Minnesota should win the game by 20 points and win 31-10. I just think it would be interesting to watch Minnesota just completely flex its muscles against a Big Ten team, because that hasn't happened this year, really. So it'll just be interesting to see how this game unfolds. I'm not going to dive into it and what Minnesota has to do and how Illinois can pull off the upset. Just in general, it's going to be interesting to see how this game unfolds. Moving on, Michigan at home against Penn State. Michigan at home against Penn State, Troy. What do you think the line is for this one?
Michigan at home against Penn State. Michigan by 6.5.
Yeah, pretty close. Michigan by 10, though. So Michigan double-digit favorites. And to me, it makes sense. And I ultimately could see Michigan winning the game by double digits, like more than 10, a.k.a. covering the spread. I think Michigan's defense is for real. And I think Penn State has struggled offensively at times, and McSorley has struggled throwing the ball at times. Like, he's barely throwing over 50% completion percentage this year. And if you're doing that against Michigan and you can't – I like Miles Sanders as a running back for Penn State, but I don't think he's going to be able to do a ton against Michigan. So I can see Penn State being held to 10, 13 points in this game, and I could see Michigan scoring at least 24 and covering the spread there. Win the game at least 24-13, something like that. I would almost expect it to be 31-13. I'd be willing to lock the Wolverines -10 against Penn State, which sounds weird. But I just think Michigan's defense is going to completely control this, and it's going to make us think about Trace McSorley and his greatness, And I think Trace McSorley is a really good college quarterback, but when he doesn't have help around him and you're going against a legitimate defense on the road, I think that's going to be very tough. So I would lock Michigan -10 against Penn State, as weird as it sounds.
You got me thinking, youngster. You got me thinking. Because I thought the line would be a touchdown, and I probably would have taken it at 6.5.
And Michigan's got everything in the world to play for. Penn State's got 2 losses. They've got no shot at anything. Really.
Other than being a spoiler.
Right.
Other than being a spoiler. But the thing is, this game is at Michigan. Tough place to play. You know what? Set the fireworks off. You convinced me, youngster. 2 locks this week. Woohoo!
We got to win one of them, right?
Or we can lose both.
Yeah.
We got to look at both parts of the pie. You got to look at the nice topping on the pie, and then you got to look at the burnt bottom. We've been on the burnt bottom a lot. So
yeah,
I just Michigan, well deserving of their ranking. They're just quietly taking care of business. And Shea Patterson, to me, Kevin, I don't think he's played his best football yet. I mean, the guy's only been in Michigan for, 7 games? I mean, that's it?
8 games.
8 games.
Yeah.
So, to me, this kid is still learning. There's still a little bit of a ceiling. I don't think he's reached his full potential. I don't think we've seen everything from him yet. And that could be scary because he is a legitimate quarterback. And Jim Harbaugh is probably licking his chops. He's probably got a lot of things in there. And you look at this, there's games on the schedule, Kevin, when you're in the Big Ten that are circled, that are highlighted, that are starred. Penn State, Ohio State, for Michigan, Michigan State, and Wisconsin. Those 4 games. Good coaches are not showing their whole deck of cards throughout the season because there's going to be wrinkles when they play those teams.
Yeah.
And like I said, we haven't seen the best of him yet. Could we see it on Saturday? We could, because the guy's legit. And Michigan is a legit team, well deserving of their ranking. They're a good, solid football team. So I'm with you. We'll lock it. I have no problem with that.
We got 2 of them then. Last game featuring a Big Ten team is not against another Big Ten team, though. This game starts at 7:15 p.m. Northwestern is at home against number 3 Notre Dame. Very interesting game to me. I think that a lot is going to be put on Clayton Thorson, and I think that Notre Dame's defensive line pushed around Michigan's offensive line in week 1 and made them look like crap. And now Michigan's sitting here as the number 5 team in the country. And I think Notre Dame is pretty dang good. I don't think that Notre Dame's got extraordinary quarterback play, so to say. But ultimately, I think that it's going to come down to Northwestern trying to find ways to score. Because Northwestern, you don't really know what you're getting out of the running game. Isaiah Bowser has come on as of late, but again, against Notre Dame, I don't think he does too much. I think that it's a night game at home, but Northwestern does not really have a home field advantage. Again, like I've said before, I've been there, and it's you could easily see 50% Notre Dame fans, if not more. And I'm being serious when I say that. That's what it was like when Northwestern played Nebraska a couple weeks ago. It literally seemed like Nebraska had home field advantage. So I kind of throw home field out. I guess an interesting thing, what do you think the line is on this one, Troy? Notre Dame traveling to Northwestern.
8.5.
Ooh.
Notre Dame by 8.5.
It's at 8. So as close as you can possibly be.
Sometimes I'm close.
Yeah.
Just so the listeners know, it's not like I'm just, some yahoo over here. I kind of know some things. Not all the time.
Right. Not all the time.
So here's what's going to happen Saturday night, Kevin. The answers to the questions, is Notre Dame for real, are not going to be answered.
Right.
I don't think this is a game that you judge Notre Dame being real on. Notre Dame should take care of Northwestern pretty handily. I mean, Northwestern, yeah, they took advantage. They took advantage of Wisconsin, but Wisconsin had no quarterback. And when you don't have a quarterback, at least Notre Dame has some resemblance of a quarterback, Kevin.
Yeah.
Which is a lot more than Wisconsin has. So I think Northwestern will have their hands full. Line's 8. Couldn't Northwestern keep it that close? It's kind of like David and Goliath, right? You play with a lot of emotion. This game for Northwestern, I know it's not a Big Ten game, but it's Notre Dame. It's a rival game. Notre Dame ranked 3rd in the country. They're going to be ready to play. And so how long can they hang in the game with Notre Dame is my question. But like you said, can they score?
Right.
Are they going to be able to score? But could Northwestern's defense stymie Notre Dame? Maybe. I'm not willing to lock this game, but I think Notre Dame's going to win.
And we're talking about, doubting Northwestern here pretty convincingly. Like, we both think Notre Dame's obviously going to win the game. And this is the team that is on top of the Big Ten West standings right now, like by themselves. They're not tied with anyone. They're 5-1 in conference. Wisconsin's 3-2. Iowa's 3-2. Purdue is 3-2. Those teams are a game and a half back. Northwestern, they're in the driver's seat for getting to the Big Ten title game. And I don't think it's necessarily...
What has this world come to?
Right. And Northwestern plays Minnesota and Illinois to close the year. They play Iowa as well. They play at Iowa. That's going to be big. That's after Notre Dame, but then they close with Minnesota and Illinois. So at Iowa will certainly be interesting.
Because if Iowa wins, Kevin, and those other 3-2, and you've got a multiple 3-2 or 2-loss record atop there, that could be exciting.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of tiebreakers could be coming out here. I want to say this too, that Northwestern. This is kind of my last point of the show, I guess. Northwestern, and I don't have the exact stat in front of me, so this is kind of lackluster. But the last I saw of it, I think Northwestern's won 10 of its last 11 Big Ten games that they've played. That's pretty impressive. Whether you're Northwestern, whether you're Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin, they're at least 10-1 in their last 11. It might be 11-1 in the last 12 now. They do well in the Big Ten. As of late, I think Pat Fitzgerald's a really good coach. But you never see good recruiting classes at Northwestern. But they're always here. They're always pushing the top 25. They're always a contender, at least in that division. And while Wisconsin's been a juggernaut kind of these last few years, Northwestern's been a notch below for sure, but they've been consistent. Northwestern is absolutely one of the better middle-tier programs in the Big Ten, for sure. They're not Wisconsin, realistically, and they're not, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan, but they're right there, and they win games. So I just wanted to give Northwestern a little kudos, and I wanted to update fans on the standings here that Northwestern's in the driver's seat. But if they lose at Iowa, obviously things can certainly change.
Or they could lose to Illinois. You never know.
Yeah, that's probably not happening. But, but in any case.
Hey, they got to play the game.
They do.
They've got to play the game.
All I got. Last thing I wanted to mention, Troy, I don't know if we're going to talk to you guys again listening to this because, again, the college football playoff rankings come out on Tuesday. And so we might do a little, 15-minute show or something, just kind of discussing our thoughts. But in any case, again, Tuesday on October 30th? Yeah, October 30th, the college football playoff rankings come out. So we might have another little mini show talking about the first real rankings of the season.
Oh, we'll have another show. You and I like to talk.
Sure.
You and I like to do shows together, so we'll do a show. We'll just got to figure out what time we can do the show and when we can do it. Well, with that said, everybody, hope you enjoyed the show today. For the youngster, I am the old man. Make sure you find us on Twitter. Our show handle is @youngsteroldman, all one word. If you want to follow the marvelous youngster, it's @KidCunny, KIDCUNI. And the old man, who's sometimes off his rocker, is @TroyRobert967. Have a good day, everybody. We'll get back with you soon.